Welcome, welcome to Little Talks for Peak Performance, hosted by myself, Dustin Hawks, and Chris McFerrin, where our goal is to bring you enough benefit and ideas to where you attract clients and not chase them. So, with that, welcome, Christopher.
Hey Dustin, how are we doing today?
I am awesome, doing awesome.
Nice, nice.
So,
Think we
we are,
finally hit those winter months. It's those waking up in 5 degrees this morning outside. I golfed last week. This blows my mind.
it's cold. It's cold out. It's cold out. Now, we might be a little bit quarantined here at home because my son has COVID. So it is
Sorry
what
to
it
hear
is.
that.
So
Yeah.
this is episode 2. We made it back for another episode, and we are going to talk about the Gradient Summit 2022 and everything that went down. And if you weren't able to attend, what you missed. And if you were able to attend the summit, it's going to be a little bit of a recap. So you can get out your notebooks and check everything that we cover and add to your notes or fact check us, if you will. So, um, but no, in all reality, the Gradient Summit is an event we host every year, usually the first, second week of January. We hop from different warm places around the country here in the continental 48, and we host our top 250 FSPs, and we not only go through marketing and a lot of things that are to come in the coming year, but we also do a recap. We do an awards dinner from all of the top advisors from the year before, and some some really cool things like that. We go over the Gradient Gives Back and all of the award winners from that from the previous year as well. So this year we had it at a resort called Terranea, which is in Rancho Palos Verdes, California. Hope I said that all correctly. And it was a beautiful resort. It was a lot of great time spent with some of our favorite people. But it was a little cold there for California standards. I think the high got to like 68 while we were there. It's pretty funny watching all the Californians running around with parkas and gloves and all of that on, and most of us just had pullovers on. I mean, we're
Oh,
from Kansas and Minnesota, so like, it was nice. It was nice.
oh
So,
yes.
um, our 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 key to the summit, or kind of what our theme was finding success in your element, and really wanted to tee off on that as we went through. And so when we essentially started, um, we have our top 50 come in a day before the actual summit starts, and we do our roundtable. And the round table is where we essentially have our top 50. They not only share their best practices, but their top niche marketing ideas. So not just your typical marketing that any given advisor does, but some of the niche little things that they do that they share with the group. And then we make sure that we share it with all the groups that are part of the top 50, and also the marketers as well. And then obviously one of the cool ones that I'd heard this year was how they were refining the client experience to not only get more referrals, but to really spend that extra little effort to make the client feel loved. So, have you been to the roundtable in years past, Chris?
I went to the one in 2018 in Minnesota, and that was my only one, but it was an unbelievable experience from the marketer standpoint. I talk to guys all day long, every day, all over the country, but being in a room with Gradient's elite of a blew my mind how much you took away from it, and importantly, as I mentioned last week, how open they are to sharing. They don't say this is my trick of the trade. I'm not telling anybody. There's no secret sauce to them. Everyone in that room really wants the other person to do better, and obviously that we don't have people, if any, really in anybody's backyard. But that's what is awesome about Gradient and the Gradient agents is everybody's here to pick each other up, and that's what this event is all about. I think next year they're expanding it to our 100 top 100, so that's pretty exciting. Definitely be checking your ranks as throughout the year to make sure you guys hitting that top 100 because this is just obviously an incredible event you can get a bunch out of. But as Dustin mentioned, we're going to relay a lot of those ideas on throughout the year and through phone calls. So give you a reason to pick up when we call sometimes.
That is the benefit to working with us, as we take all of the best ideas from our top FSPs and get them out to all of the other offices that we work with. So yeah, the roundtable was a good one. So we'll start off here with day one of the summit. And we did this summit a bit different than we have in years past. And for a lack of better words, a lot of times the Gradient Summit kind of comes across as a commercial, as here's what's to come, here's what we're unveiling, here's what you can see from us over the next 12 months. And while that is really beneficial, and a lot of times that's pretty cool, it can feel like it's a bit repetitive over year over year over year. And this year, it was more about getting that marketing and that training and how to really change your practice. And one of the things we'll hit off here at the very end is the difference between growth and scaling your business. And that is a really important feature or key topic going into 2022 and beyond, is the difference between growth and scaling. Everybody likes to see growth, but if you can actually scale and the difference that it'll make on your business and the impact that it has, and really, not to be a spoiler alert, but really Chuck teed off on that. Mr. Charles Lucis, the chairman, teed off on that there at the very end of the summit, and it was really a pretty cool bow tie or ending to the summit, as it was a great way to kind of just send everybody off. So I kind of gave a little spoiler alert there, but it was a good one. So we started off with breakout sessions, and individuals could pick from essentially big business, selling, or marketing, those three different topics. And then if we had our special VIPs that we invited, they got to go to a blueprint of success. And a blueprint of success is essentially going through the blueprint, the Gradient Dynamic Blueprint, and what impact it has on your business and how it can really help you grow and scale as well. So, and then we went right into Dr. Jason Selk.
Man, I had the opportunity actually of seeing Dr. Jason Selk out in August. We had an event in Vegas, but that guy is incredible. But as Dustin mentioned, yeah, we had this event is one of our best of the years. Every single year we hear from advisors, this is the best one we've ever done. Unfortunately wasn't able to attend. I got bit with the coronavirus bug right after Christmas. I found out, what was it, Dustin, the Thursday before we were supposed to leave, or Friday before we were supposed to leave. So it was right before that. So I wasn't able to make this one, and I actually haven't been to one yet. The last 5 years, stuff has come up, whether it be a kid or a wedding or coronavirus. Have been able to go. So I'm really looking forward to it. And the reason why, obviously, is Gradient, from what I've heard and seen, they always bring in some of the elite speakers in the industry. And for me personally, that's where I get a lot of my growth from, are some of these motivational speakers, not necessarily, how to make your financial services business better, how to sell more annuities, but how to just grow as a person, as a business leader, as a manager, husband, father, all those things. And so what he spent his time on, as you can see at the bottom, Relentless Solution Focus. He actually, I don't think he handed these out, but I got this book from him when I saw him. I'm just going to read the quick characteristic of it, Dustin, and you can kind of take it from there and expand on it. But the one characteristic all phenomenally successful people share is mental toughness. Mentally tough people are better at making decisions more quickly with better results. They possess an uncanny ability to control what goes on between their ears. Instead of allowing their minds to focus on their problems when adversity strikes, the most successful people have learned to direct their thoughts in a systematic manner that produces positive emotions and productive actions. And that's Relentless Solution Focus. I heard a quote actually from Tiger Woods. I don't know if you've heard about him. He plays golf in his side time. He talked about the difference between nervous energy and excited energy. It's the same exact concept. When you're nervous, your heart rate's elevated, you're breathing, you're thinking more about the bad things. But when you're excited, your heart rate is elevated, you're heavy breathing, but you're focusing on the exciting part, that what makes it fun. So that's one thing that's really taught me a lot, is especially when the nervousness comes, or if you're faced with some of these obstacles, if you're focusing on that bad part or that tough part, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard, like that quote we mentioned last week. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about him, but I got a lot out of him when I saw him a couple months back, and thinks he is a tremendous speaker. If you ever want to pick my brain or get a copy of that book, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. That's an awesome offer. The couple things that I took away from it is he had a couple of different little sayings, but one of them was whatever the mind focuses on, it expands. So if you focus on the problem, all you're doing is expanding the problem. And his relentless solution focus is essentially within 30 seconds of the problem, you need to shift your mind to a solution thinking process. And once you find that solution, then you can move past that problem, or you can at least try to put it behind you instead of letting that just dominate what you're essentially doing and thinking and your next moves. I thought he was probably the best speaker at the Gradient Summit. And he obviously was featured at our Evolve event. And honestly, Chris, I know I said this in the last one. I really would like to bring him on and interview him here on our podcast. So hopefully in the future, we'll get to do that.
We didn't even say where we found him from. The 2000 and was it the 12 St. Louis Cardinal World Championship team that he was their sports psychologist for. He was with the Cardinals for a long time when they were having that big run. You know, baseball, obviously, we all know is a big money game. You got to be in the big markets. But St. Louis, not a big market team, was constantly successful. And he's not going to say it, but there's a lot of people and players, what you've heard if you do some research on him, that attribute Dr. Jason Selk with a lot of that success, just mentally.
Yep. Yep. And you hit it right on the head with some of the things that he talks about with mental focus and moving beyond that. So he finished out day one before we had our little carnival activities and dinner, which was really pretty cool. And I did the old big old hammer thing where you slam it down and it runs up and it rings the bell or whatnot. And while my heavy COVID body was able to sling that thing over and hit it, my back hurt for the rest of the weekend. I was like, why did I do that? That was so dumb.
They made you sign the terms of waiver. Make sure if you get hurt.
They should have. They definitely should have. So it always reminds me that I'm getting older and older each and every day. So
I hear you there.
Day two of the summit, we kicked off with Dan Thurmon, and he's an author, and he does Off Balance on Purpose. And it was really cool to really see kind of how, if you think about off balance on purpose, everybody's got their little sayings and I think that it was really neat. He kept the crowd's attention and he had a really, really good message. And I'll go into it a little bit here, but he essentially is talking about embracing uncertainty and create the life that you love. And so what was really cool, and I wish you would have been able to experience, is he had all these peacock feathers, these really long, tall feathers that he had distributed throughout the entire conference room. And he asked us to try to balance that. He goes, put that in the palm of your hand and balance that feather. And, I'm going to do it an injustice, but he essentially had us focusing right on our palm. And he knew that he was teaching us or telling us to do it wrong. And then he said, wait. And then he brings us back and he's like, actually, I told you to do that incorrectly. But what you really want to do is you want to focus at the top of the feather on this, 24-inch, 36-inch feather, this peacock feather. And so I put it on there. And shockingly, if you look at where it's going, you can sit there and you can lead that, your hand to make sure that if it's starting to lean that way, you push your hand that way. And then, but the whole point of it is a lot of like what Dr. Selk was talking about is where you put your focus is where things are going to go. And so what I took from him was, you might be off balance or you might be focused on this. And throughout the process, if you just refine what you're looking at and you look at the end goal, you can get to where you want to. It just may not be the same way that you actually had planned out for yourself. Excuse me. And then he used chaos and he put it up on the board, and he had two different acronyms, or he used chaos as an acronym, and he had all these various things. I'm not going to go through what the different words that he had on there, but essentially his whole point was positive chaos is affirming what is. And once you affirm that it is what it is, and you can come up with essentially like a solution like Dr. Jason Selk had, you can go forward with that. So I know that you didn't get a chance to see him, but I'm definitely going to get his book and pass it out to you so you can get a chance to look at that as well. So
I will say, if you haven't had a chance to see Dan Thurmon or heard of him, just Google Dan Thurmon off balance. And the very first video I pulled up, it was him showing his speech, doing a handstand on the podium. Right around then, I said, "Wow, this guy is a little bit different." He drew me in, and it was a couple TED Talks he did were really good. A lot about what you just said there. So he's a different one with a great message, but with a different one that's fun to watch and drags you in.
he even had a unicycle and did some juggling acts. It was impressive. He was impressive. He woke everybody up as the first keynote speaker of the day and had us ready to go. We then rolled right into what I would call gradient presentations, and we brought on some of Gradient's finest. And I think Katie Grindelin, Brian Lucius, and Christina Walsh were our presenters, and they really talked about people, process, and technology. And really, that was the entire focus of the summit was, really, can we help you with that client experience? And so the experience factor with people, and marketing with a purpose, and what's the process of that. And then one of the things that Christina did is she came out and she was right before lunch, and she's like, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to come up with some numbers. I'm going to give you data. And it probably was the best time to do it, because you do it right after lunch when everybody's got a full belly and then they're really nappy. That would not have been the right time to go through numbers. But one of the key numbers she put out there that really resonated with me is, of all of the virtual advisor users and all of the FSPs out there that are using virtual advisor and generational vault. So if an FSP has a client that has an account, or they put them into the virtual advisor, but they don't have, or they don't use the generational vault with that person, the average assets that we can tell are about $250,000 that person has. Now you take the person that's in virtual advisor, or the client or the customer, and they have a generational vault account and they use it, that number shoots up to $3.2 million of assets. Now you can say, wow, that's a huge variant of people that don't have a vault and people that do. And it could be as simple as the good clients that you're using have a vault, and the ones that you don't know much about are just in virtual advisor and they don't have a vault account. But it really resonated with me to say, make sure your clients are using the vault. You get really good clients, you get sticky clients, and that vault is so cool. And they actually unveiled a really cool sales system that revolves around the vault. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, well, mainly the new video that they put together does a great job really highlighting everything that thing can do. Like I mentioned last week on the intro, that's another service that you can use it for as little as you want or as much as you want. I highly encourage all of my family members even just use this for your own personal use. And if you don't know much about the vault, one, that's shame on Dustin and I for not telling you, but we've got a really awesome video that we can personalize. It's not just a sales video. It's not like that in any way, shape, or form. A true testimonial that is very beneficial, describing in layman's terms how easy it is to use, why you want to do it, why it's important for you and the clients, as opposed to just go put your stuff out here. And that's what is really big. Is this is a service, as just like K Central, every single advisor needs to be using for them and their advisor or for their clients because it keeps them sticky to you. That is a very good value add. It's no cost to be able to show and take advantage of. So that is one big service I'd say we need to get everybody on board and talking about, even if it's just an, oh, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, this is what you get when you come on board with us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm really excited for that. I think they're calling it customer to client process or whatnot, but essentially gives our advisors the ability to have their clients film a video to their beneficiaries and talk about a really cool service and really a heartfelt way to tell your loved ones, what your intentions are. Is it's really powerful. It's pretty cool. So, and then after lunch, we had Steve Robinson, and he's the former chief marketing officer of Chick-fil-A. And he had a
So
really, really cool story,
this is
as
the
you can
one guy.
imagine.
Yeah, I really was bummed I couldn't see him. Obviously, we all know Chick-fil-A's success recipe. It's not the chicken sandwich. Is there's 105 cars at lunchtime, and you get out that window with your correct order with the nicest service in under a couple minutes. I mean, what they've done, it just blows my mind as far as systems approach, but also doing it with that faith-based business approach as well. And so that was the one I was bummed on. So I'm really excited to hear more about what you have to say about him, Dustin.
Yeah. So just like you said, it's my pleasure. That's not in. They say it's not in their training manual, but they every time you say thank you, they say it's my pleasure, and essentially it's extremely powerful. It's a culture that they have built there, and the way that they essentially found that they had lightning in a bottle with this chicken sandwich, and where they moved from it there. And he talked about, they started out in malls and they were in the food court of all of these malls and they didn't have any outside standalone restaurants really. And then the malls kind of started to die off, and that business plan they could tell was going to be short lived, and how they essentially um, pivoted to having their own stores. And, like the one that we have here in Topeka, Kansas, I mean, it's 5 football fields away from the one that was in the mall. They just came right outside the mall and put it right there on the main intersection right there by the mall. And some people are like, that's really weird. Well, it's not in the mall anymore. They don't have two stores so close when they originally said they were going to. But a couple of keynotes here. I need to look at my notes, so I apologize about that. But the my pleasure part, he said where good meets gracious. So they think they're good. They don't necessarily think that they're great, but they think they're good. And where good meets gracious is where you're really going to find the success in that culture. The other thing is he brought up some Bible verses, but he had Proverbs 22:1. A good name is to be more valued than riches. And if you really think about Chick-fil-A and the way that their business model works, if you think about any one of their commercials, have you ever seen their food, the actual food, featured in a commercial for Chick-fil-A?
I I don't think I don't think so. Just the cows and the interviews. Yeah, I don't think you're
Yep.
right.
And so they came out, I think they were 93, 94, 97. I can't remember. They were the Peach Bowl sponsor, the title
Okay.
sponsor, and they hired a marketing firm to come up with a sales idea. Well, it was the cows out there chewing the grass up, and essentially when you come up from the higher elevation, it says "Eat more chicken." And nobody's ever come out and said it, but I've always thought it's funny as you got McDonald's sitting right across the street from Chick-fil-A, at least here, and they're serving beef. I mean, the cheeseburger is their main menu item. So you got, before you even get to processing, you got the cow out there smart enough to say, "Hey, eat more chicken. Don't eat a Chick-fil-A, not McDonald's."
I love it.
It's hilarious. It's so genius. And you know, I've always, and I was telling Carrie this the other day, like after I was reflecting back, I'm like, McDonald's will have a quarter pounder, they have a picture of it, or Jersey Mike's will have a picture of this unbelievable sub sandwich. But when you get that put in your hand for you to eat, does it ever look like what they have on the commercial?
Ever. No.
So like it's just genius that Chick-fil-A is they're just building their brand. They're not
Oh
trying to
yeah.
sell a thing, they're selling their brand. And that really resonated with me. And hopefully it resonated with a ton of the advisors out there that build your brand, build your name, do what's right for the clients, do what's right for their beneficiaries, and your brand will expand tenfold. So that's really what I took away from that one. And
Mhm.
then we went right into some more gradient presentations, and we had essentially the case for culture, and Nikki Foley and Brad Malm and Gretchen Beatty were on stage, and they really talked about, you know, the some of the amazing things that Gradient can do for the advisor, and how they can help them with not only the operations side of it, but some other aspects of really talking about HR and organizational development, and really pushing your business. And that's back to where we're talking about scaling and growth, and what's the difference, and how can you get that scaling model into your practice, and not just growth, as that's extremely important. And we're trying to do that as well with our business model.
And we'll have at some point Nikki and Brad on, and even Gretchen, probably just to go through and hit on high level why it's important to think about these things. Hiring and firing employees isn't as easy as it sounds, especially in today's day and age. Having that long term succession plan. So things like that, you'll want to tune into just for business growth, not necessarily money wise, but the growth inside of your business. If that makes sense.
Yep, you bet. And then right after I would call the HR section of it, they had Chad Ressler and Mike Binger up on stage to talk about the future of product. And they went back and forth between the securities world and the annuity world, and really they talked about some of these products that are kind of in the middle. That we've got some securities products that are looking like indexed annuities, and some indexed annuities that are trying to look like securities, and kind of the future of product and where it goes. That was a really interesting talk that they had. And I don't know that they figured out all of the industry's products or what the future is going to hold, but a lot of things to think about there. And I know that you and I are constantly checking out product and seeing all the new stuff that comes about. And every once in a while, we'll see a product that there's an idea that comes across, and then it's just R&D and it never comes to fruition, which is
Yeah.
sometimes is exciting. And other times you're like, wow, good thing we didn't have to talk about that one, because that was going to flop. So,
Well, let's knock on wood. We've heard some exciting things already to start this year from carriers making increases. Again, knock on wood. I don't think we've seen any decreases, but it seems like carriers are excited about 2022. So we're all pretty pumped for what can come, competitive rates, that sort of thing. So definitely be on the lookout. Pick our brain anytime you want.
absolutely.
Dennis
Absolutely.
Moseley-WIlliams, Dustin, man, I heard some complete hit or miss with him. It was funny. So, but what I will say, what I just from some of the talking points I've heard, he sounds like he lines up a lot with our motto on working on attracting clients, not chasing them, and some of the things he does for that client experience when they're in the office, those sort of things. But it was funny to hear is they do ratings on these speakers, and he was either a 5 or a 2. So tell me
So,
maybe why it was so hit or miss, if you could.
well, so the things that he talked about were absolutely amazing, and he had all of these examples of creating just an incredible client experience. And for me to try to talk about him the way that he did would do it an injustice. But really talk about tailoring your essentially your annual reviews, or anytime you've got a specific client, or what I would call an advocate that comes in, as you learn about them and about them, you tailor that appointment to what their passions and their hobbies are. So he talked about a guy that he works with, and he uses essentially this type of model for meeting with his clients. And Dennis Moseley-WIlliams is a huge Porsche enthusiast. And so when he came into his office, this guy kind of changed his whole office to to the Porsche driving experience, and knew that Dennis had done that over in Europe, where they went over to Europe, went to the factory, picked up some cars, and then they toured part of Europe in these 911s and had these unbelievable food experiences. And he's like, just the feeling that I felt when I walked into his office and all the rush of the memories that came back, it just made me feel amazing. And so he's talking about some of that stuff. That gets a little deeper. You really, really have to know your client. You really have to have an unbelievable fact and feeling process to get there with your clients, which you can do, but takes it to a whole nother level. But he talked about 5 or 6 of these experiences, and while they were all amazing, and he did a good job relating it, you kept thinking he was going to come in with this unbelievable crescendo, and then he pops right back out, and he's doing this amazing experience again, and you're like, oh, I thought he was going to close it down, and now he's opened it back up again. So I think that's where the 2s and the 5s came from, is because he was just, you know, all over the map. But it was some amazing content, and really was a great way to close out what I would consider to be another keynote speaker that Gradient brought in.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one thing I know Rami with Million Dollar Minds, he always talks about is that first appointment, doing an incredible fact finder. Even when they're in the waiting room for that first appointment, they have a little sheet that says, you know, how do you like your coffee? What kind of snacks do you like? Any hobbies? So I will say that makes sense. You got to know what you're getting yourself into. If they are vegans and you're talking about all the animals you've been hunting this winter, it's probably not going to go over really well. So that is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we closed out at least the meeting portion of the event with Nate Lucius, and he brought on Chuck, his father, and the chairman, and they really did some pretty cool stuff. But it was finding success in your element, which I think was the whole theme through the entire Gradient Summit. And they did a really cool announcement there where I think we had 5 or 6 or 7 of some of the best leadership we've got at Gradient got promotions. And they highlighted each and every one of those individuals and spotlighted them and talked about growth versus scaling, and essentially taking a look at your best people and elevating them up within your practice or within your business, and really trying to push for that next level. And really that is kind of pretty cool. Like you take like the Elon Musks and the Bezos, and even um the why am I drawing a blank on the Microsoft guy?
Gates.
Yeah, Bill Gates. Every single one of them came out with some really, really cool stuff. And even Steve Jobs with Apple is probably the best example of, you know, he essentially took Apple to where it was. Then I think he was removed from the board. Not, and that's not really the tenor of this, but you know, as he came back, when he became the CEO again of Apple, he elevated a ton of people with a ton of talents within Apple and really propelled it forward. He may have had the idea of the iPhone or the iPod or whatever. I think it was the iPod first. And then how that really revolutionized the way that not only do we listen to music, but how we get our information. But he had an entire team of people that they elevated at Apple to really send Apple to the next level. And so I thought that was really, really cool. And, you know, Chuck, which I've heard this quote 100 times, I never wrote it down, but Chuck would always, you know, he would say, if it is to be, it's up to me. And he said that exact quote. And then very eloquently went into, you know, I've taken a bit of a step back. I'm still the, you know, overseer of all things Gradient, but we've essentially let the Nates and the Bryans and the Nickies, and I'm going to forget half the other people that were elevated into new positions, but we've let them grow into these positions over the last couple of years, and Gradient couldn't be at higher levels. We couldn't be on a stronger footing. And it really is 100% true. And it really resonated with me as to you and I, is that, you know, we really need to look to hiring more people for our pod, and really growing that up to give a better better service and more growth aspect to what we're doing here at Team Peak. And by starting this podcast, that I think this is the first step to really stepping out and giving some great content on the whole in the masses, if you will. So it's really, really cool. And then we're gonna had a ton of different quotes at the summit, but we're going to finish every one of these up with a quote. And I didn't get it typed into our software, so I'm just going to read it to you. So for those on the listeners on iTunes and Spotify, you're not going to miss out. But for the YouTube watchers, we're not going to have it put up on the screen. So I apologize about that. But it's from Dan Thurmon. Now, Dan Thurmon said this. I wrote it down during his presentation. I then Googled the quote to see if he got it from somebody else, and I couldn't find it anywhere else. So we're going to cite Dan Thurmon here for the quote. But if you limit yourself to what is comfortable, you are limiting yourself to what is possible. And I think that's an amazing quote. Obviously, I wrote it down in the middle of his speech, but I think if we always talk about getting outside of your comfort zone, and there's not a better way for it to be stated. I don't know if you have a thought on it, but that really resonated with me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's pretty clear there. I mean, like I said, I love these kind of quotes, and it's just another one that puts it and reminds you that if I want something, I got to go get it. It's not going to come to me. And I like that one a lot. That was a good one, Dustin.
Yep. Awesome. So little housekeeping items here. We highly encourage you to give us the best rating and review you possibly can so we can get our name out there on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you find your podcast. Like and subscribe on YouTube, if you will, and then hit that little bell up at the top right. That will alert you every time that we upload a video. And we're not just going to upload videos and stuff to YouTube on the podcast. We've got some other really cool things coming. I've got some marketing videos up there already. And then, Chris, you've got a kind of an exciting announcement for what you're going to do here on YouTube.
Oh yeah, so we're going to be doing, these quotes and these motivational one-offs a lot more frequent. Like we said, we found just with last week's podcast, a lot of people really liked that. And so even if it's just a couple times a week where you can see something that gets you a little bit fired up, that's the thing. I mean, Wednesday morning or Thursday morning, you've been grinding. It's been a long week. It's tough to wake up and you just say, I want to hit the snooze button. I want to miss the workout. Little things like that just help get you that energized, me anyway. So that'll be something that we're going to be coming with. And then also what's mainly important, I think you're going to need to hit that bell for, is big product updates. So we're going to be, as I mentioned, a lot of these companies are making these announcements. So you're going to see us make our quick announcements to ones you really do need to know about. We're not going to flood your inbox with just, some random company increased their MIGA by 10 bips. I mean, the big ones you need to know about, they're important. That's where we're going to be posting our updates that you need to make sure you at least see as they come through.
And we sent out a video here last week on what I would consider to be one of the biggest product innovations that we've had in quite some time here at Gradient. And we are really, I'm not going to talk about it here, but we are really, really excited for what that product has in store, not only for you, the advisor, but what it's going to do for the client's retirement. It's a really cool product.
Yep,
so
absolutely is.
Well, with that, don't forget to follow, subscribe wherever you get to this content, and make sure that you like this content so we can get it out to more masses. And remember, the whole goal here is for us to help you attract clients, not chase them. Have a wonderful day.
See you guys.